for someone like you who does value work ethic, right? And it's something, do you think that you value it in a way in which you recognize that, like, hey, sometimes it's painful, sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's hard or uncomfortable, but you just have an ability to kind of push through that and do it? Or do you think you were, for lack of a better word, like blessed, where you actually enjoy it? Like you like doing the call at 6 and the call at 8 and working, and it's work ethic objectively, but in many ways it doesn't feel like work for you. It's all stuff you enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, right? I think part of me just, I think I would not bred, but like growing up in a family that valued that. And, my dad would make a call and it was an extra shift. He'd go in and take it. He wouldn't complain. He wouldn't say, sorry. And we kind of understood, it's like, hey, we need to make money. This is how we're putting food on the table. Yeah. And my mom too, with her odd jobs and some of the, like the in-home nursing before that was popular,
Mm.
she was doing a lot of that senior companion stuff when she could. And you see that and you grow up around it and then you expect it. And I think it actually, as a boss too, as a business owner, in many respects, I kind of look down my nose at people that don't have that. Like when someone says, "Oh, I can't, I gotta go work today," like, and I hate to say that because we all say that at some point,
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to be anything but honest here.
yeah, yeah.
I think the truth of the matter is there are some people that just don't have that like you said, right? And you want to find people that are self-starters. They motivate themselves. They're going to get out of bed. They're going to get up as early as they need to and get what they need to get done and accomplished, and even if that means that they might have to, put off that gain till some other point to get this out of the way. There are those that are like that. And then there are those that are never going to be like that. Right.
Mhm.
And they, and sometimes they get lucky, they come from means or they have a certain talent and they can kind of skirt around it and things like that. But for the majority of us, that aren't born with that kind of wealth or that kind of talent, you have to go out and make something of yourself. And so I always have respected that from others. Now, you know, does it mean that that I don't understand when people want to check out? Sure, there are days like yesterday was a perfect day. I just could not get it started, no matter what I did. And I came home. My wife even said, she made fun of me. She's like, "Are you sick? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, today's just one of those days." And we all have
So,
bad days, but then you try to make up for it and you find a way around it. But in my case, I do like it. I always find that it keeps your mind engaged, it keeps you sharp. You learn so much in doing this, and I have my hand in so many different marketplaces that it's a lot of fun for me to be involved in multiple projects at the same time.
mm,
I think I might have a problem if it was just one thing I did, got up and just did that. But since my entrepreneurial spirit has met in different directions in all places, whether it's a tech company or whether it's a publishing company or whether it's me being an author or whatever. I think that each of them are a little unique, and it gives me a respite from the others.
mm.
I get to be able to put in some time to do something that I know I've got to do, but might not have been able to do if I was just doing a singular job. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of glad I don't have one of those.
That's awesome. So I want to ask, and hopefully you understand, like the spirit of the show is very much to have, as we talked about in the pre-show, just honest, authentic conversations. I think the more we do that as just people in general, the better off we all are as a society. So I appreciate the honesty of being like, you know what, if I'm being, I get it. I get how this come off, but I do kind of look down on some people that don't have that work ethic. So I want to press on that a little bit because I'm just curious on that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about that? Because there's maybe I'll ask the question this way. Like, in some ways, as you've alluded to from your childhood, like that lived experience, the example that you saw showed you that work ethic was important. It was kind of modeled for you and you've embodied it. Had you grown up in a different childhood, right? Had you been born to a different family, had it been different or whatever, do you think you would have had a completely different perspective and maybe been one of those people? Like, I guess what I'm asking at the core is like, at our essence, is there an essence of us where you think it was inevitable that work ethic was going to be something you'd find important? Or do you think it really depends on your experiences, your parents, maybe some genetics, and it's kind of a roll of the dice that you happen to get it and maybe somebody else doesn't? How do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Well, I think part of it is who you are, right? Like I think in my businesses, being an entrepreneur takes a certain type of personality, right? It's a type A, it's a risk taker, someone that has some risk tolerance to them, and by way of example, I had a great conversation over the last few months with a couple of my friends who want to start a dog grooming business. It's fairly simple business. I've sat down with them, helped them put together some budgets and some financials and projections so that they can go and raise money for it. It's not a ton of money, but it's something that they're going to be doing a mobile grooming thing. And as part of that, I'd ask them, what's holding you back? Why it just like seems like every time we meet, it's the same questions, and there's some other obstacle in your way, and they're honest. They're like, we've never done this before, and there's a fear of just kind of jumping in. And I've never had that fear.
Mm.
And I've always known, and I've never really had a job that wasn't one I created for myself. There was a one-time 6-year period when I was younger that I worked for someone else who was an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? So it was, like
Same type of thing.
there was no there was, for me, there's never been another path. Like, for me to work for someone else probably won't work. Like, I might be their problem employee because I'm off doing whatever it is that I think I should be doing. And so I think part of that you're born with, part of it is just a personality trait, and it manifests itself in a variety of different ways. And whether that was me being an entrepreneur or being involved in sports or politics or whatever, it won't make a difference. I think that, ultimately that will it will manifest itself at some point. And then I think your question about sort of like nature versus nurture, right? Like in this nurturing case, if you were in a situation where you didn't have to work, I'm certain that there are folks out there that, have that gene that would allow them to kind of kick back and be a little hedonistic when it came to it. I just don't possess it, so I have a hard time seeing it. Right? Like, I know if I had wealth, I would do a lot with it. I would never be bored. You know what I mean? And so for me, I think it's just a matter of energy and a bit of that nature. Maybe I would be manifesting it differently if I grew up in a different scenario, but I can't ever imagine myself just punching a clock and wait. I get to work at 9:02 and I'm punching out at 4:55. And that's just not, that fiber doesn't exist in me.